Welcome again to an episode of Becoming the Better You in the Business Model. I am Brian K. Ramey, and today I have a special guest, Steve Baumgartner, with me. Now, from my understanding, Steve, you came from the manufacturing industry. You got 20 plus years in that business, and you've ran plants, you've been on the maintenance side, you've been on the technical side of how things work together within it. And what you really do is you try to blend those two together and be a bridge for a company. Is that correct?
That is correct. I spent well over 2 decades in the maintenance and reliability space, from the ground level all the way up through the corporate level, where I was across all of the United States and a bit of Mexico, 42 plants in all. And I've also spent time in the seat of the plant manager.
Okay.
So I ran all of operations as well.
Wow. That's a difficult task, because a whole plant, there's a whole lot of moving parts, because I've been around those plants and there are a lot of moving parts. What are 2 things that you see that impede a plant?
So the first one I would say is the business alignment with all the parties.
Okay.
So when I say that, it was amazing when I went from maintenance and reliability over to being a plant manager. I sat in on my very first meeting, Brian, and I'm like, what in the hell is this language that they're talking right now? I couldn't believe it,
Acronym specials?
Yeah, acronyms, metrics, things I had never heard. I had 2 decades with the same company.
Wow.
The second thing is that maintenance and reliability is very specialized, right?
Okay.
There's a lot of terms and things like that, and we have consultants out in the business today who are doing a great job teaching all of these maintenance skills, reliability skills to this growing gap of skills that aren't there in manufacturing right now. But what they're not doing is they're not tying that back to business at all. So you're becoming blind in both directions.
So what I hear you say, they're becoming very technical, but the communication barrier where growth can occur is kind of like there's like a cavity there, or there's not a bridge.
Right.
It's basically an open basin, if you will, of lack of communication. So neither one knows how to really interact with the other, because they speak, like you just said, your first time meeting, you didn't really know the vernacular, and you've been at the plant for some time, and now you're being introduced this. So now we find there's a problem. And one of the things that we had talked about earlier before we even actually did this episode on Becoming the Better You, and this is all about business, is that you wanted to bridge that gap that was there, because they, a lot of times, and I see this in a lot of businesses, they're at odds. Even though they may say some of the same similar things, they're at odds because they do not know how to communicate properly. And so you're saying consultants are coming in and they're handling those or communicating those?
So there's 2 different types of consultants that I see out in the manufacturing space right now. There's the consultants that are out there working with the operational groups, the production groups, and they're trying to lean everything up, right? They're trying to cut costs, they're doing all that on the one side. On the other side, on the maintenance and reliability side, they're teaching a totally different language. They're talking about preventive maintenance, they're talking about OE, all these kind of different things that are totally different metrics, right? So I want you to imagine there's a scoreboard, right? Let's just say that it looks like one in the KU stadium down here, right? Where it looks like a basketball scoreboard, but you got hockey metrics up on one side and football on the other. That's what it seems
it's 2 polar opposites, even though it deals with sports.
Yeah, how do you solve problems in an environment like that when your 2 main components in the operational system don't even know what the other's saying?
Well, they know what they're saying. I want to go lean. I want to spend. That's what they're really.
Yes.
That's what they're really saying. And what I have found in my history of dealing with not only manufacturing but a lot of businesses, and I've done a lot of different things, is that the levels that we typically see are surface levels. The real things you have to dig a lot deeper to get to. Why are we going lean? Why are we doing preventative maintenance? And people have to feel like they're in a secure place that they can actually verbally vomit their emotions, because I find that a lot of times too, and I'm sure you've seen this too, I'm not getting heard. I'm not allowed to speak what I really feel. Even though it may not have anything to do with the growth of the business, but they just feel like they're not being heard.
Right.
And so somebody like you comes in, instead of dealing with just surface level problems of savings, lean, we'll call this, and that's what it is, folks. It's, I want to put back money. You've got another side of the business that says we've got to do maintenance and prepare for breakdowns, prepare for problems. We got to prepare. And I like to call that a person. I made this mistake in my life at one time. I called an accountant a bean counter. They did not appreciate that very much. I said that because they're responsible for counting
The beans.
the money. So I quit saying that. And actually, Brenda's dad was the person I said that to. Now, did I do it intentionally? A little bit to get a rise, but the fact of the matter, that's the truth. It's because we only really care about what we get. We're not looking at what the focus point of what the business is.
Right.
And that's what I see you tend to try to blend those together, hear them, but put correct structure in place. Is that similar, or maybe I'm off?
Yeah. So I want to take the focus off from the people for a minute.
Great.
Because I don't think that anybody thinks that they're doing anything wrong in there, or anybody's doing anything wrong. They're doing what they know.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just this growing chasm in between the two groups. So both of them are trying to do the best work that they think that they're supposed to do. They're being told on the maintenance and reliability side that we need to do all these different metrics for maintenance and reliability, and that's what's going to make us successful. Everybody in the production side is, everything's getting tighter and tighter and tighter, right? So they're trying to lean things up to take money out of the middle, which is a good thing. And they're trying to get the business better going over here. What they don't realize is that they're both trying to do the same thing. They're just going in two different directions, right? So what I really try and do is correct the language, connect them to the same problem, understand it with the same language, so that we can point both efforts in the same direction and rock and roll.
Yeah, it's interesting. Each side wants to support the other, they just don't know how.
Right. That's exactly right.
And that's where you come in.
That is where I come in.
You're the how.
I am the how.
We always go through the what, when, where, why, but we never get to the how, because everybody's emotions are over here, and this is the how.
Right.
And I've got to believe that's one of the things that you really strive to bridge,
Right.
is the how.
That's exactly right. In today's market, 90% of the entire P&L lives in that middle. What I call the middle is the production and the maintenance group, right? They're both, both of them are going through cost cutting and everything else, but you know as well as I do, when you cut cost to cut cost, it'll come back and bite you in another bucket, another GL account, right? When you bring those teams together and go against common problems in the plant, there's a company I'm working with right now, and one of their four plants, we're chasing after a $4.2 million elephant. And it's going to be no new equipment. It's going to be no new people, nothing like that. It's just going to be simply getting those two groups together to capture what's falling on the floor right now. That's it. $4.2 million a year. That makes them competitive.
Where's the net? who's got the net? I'm sorry. That's just how I think.
No,
Who's catching the stuff? Because that's what, a lot of times what I have seen is we're so caught up in our individual and we don't figure out the how. But that safety net is down there. We just don't understand it or we don't see it correctly. We
That's
don't
exactly right.
and a lot of it comes with alignment, is what I have found. We're not aligning with our core values for the company and not our own personal interest. Is that?
I would agree.
Okay.
I would agree. But when we break that down to, when I was still in industry, we had this guy was a little bit of a quack, but this is the best thing that he ever did. We had the CEO who put out his 3 core things that we were going after this year, right? You know the type. We got 3 things we're going after. It's going to be, we're going to hit $1 billion this year. We're going to have 10% veterans. We're going to, whatever it was. And my boss had the title of chief engineer or whatever it was. What he did was he put out his vision that had his 6 pillars or whatever that directly connected to the CEOs. Then what he did was he came to me and he goes, I want yours to connect to mine, and then I want your people's to connect to yours, and we're going to get it all the way down to the hourlies. And that's really what opened my mind in this whole space is, when everybody gets aligned on that same mission, that's where you really turn everything onto. I can see as the floor janitor how I connect with the CEO, even though that's 50,000 people up that stream. I can see how I connect to the CEO. And that's an amazing place to be at. When you can come to work every day and you go, you know what? I really make a difference because I'm helping the CEO reach his goals. Right? It seems so simple.
It is, unfortunately, and maybe, and I'm not bashing CEOs. Believe me. I've been in those positions before, and a lot of times it takes the right listening skills. You may have a vision, but if that vision is not correctly articulated to the engineer or to whoever's down to the janitor, if it's not, then basically your values, everybody's values goes 10 different directions.
Absolutely.
And then the CEO's like, well, why is nobody listening to me? And this is one of the things that I help a lot of CEOs, especially on the fractional side, is I help companies understand where the holes in my conversation can be. And I think that's what I hear you're saying, is a lot of times CEO says, I can do all 3 because that's how I got hired. That was my pitch deck, if you will. This is how I'm going to do it. But we failed in one area. We forgot to go out there and ask and do an inventory, because that's really what it comes down to, an inventory of what we got. Then we design the vision. Sometimes I see that goes backwards, and we think we're actually saving money when we're costing. I had a friend tell me one time, Brian, you're saving pennies, but you're costing yourself dollars.
Yeah.
And I've seen it in so many companies. They save themselves pennies and end up ultimately costing themselves dollars.
Agreed.
And that's terrible that they do that. Well, I'm thankful that that's one of your core things that you work with companies on. Is it only on the manufacturing side?
Currently, that's where I've started at.
Okay.
But I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I don't see why it couldn't go other places. I'm sure that every company has those same language gaps you just talked about, right? Now, I do want to bring back another point, though. You were talking about, the articulation of the vision. I can guarantee you that every CEO in America today, I don't know about them other countries, some of them are weird, but in America today, every company out there, increase profits, decrease cost. Every CEO is going to be happy with that, right?
So before you go on that, go down that roll or that hole, you said increase profits.
Mm-hmm.
For who?
For the company, for the CEO, for
who? That's always I don't think that question gets, because you typically it's for the investors
oh, correct, yeah.
or the people who have stock into the company. They want to see their profits grow. To me, you don't go lean to grow a pocket.
Right. Unless you're one of these CEOs who only plans on spending 3 years.
Oh, there's such a thing. Yeah, I was sarcastic about that on Becoming the Better You. Brian K. Raymond was sarcastic about that.
So, a lot of times when I start working with a company, the first thing that I do is I tell them to go ask their VP or senior VP or COO or whoever, right? What their vision for the next year is. And a lot of times they get crickets. Busyness, whatever the case is. And they come back and they're like, well, we can't do this, we can't do this, Brian. We can't do it, And I'm like, it's easy. Increase profits, decrease cost. So I draw out a water flow chart on a board. And I explain to them that you have a material cost, you have an ingredients cost, you have packaging costs, this, that, and the other. That it takes money to get into business, right? And then you might get a little bit of gain from a number 2 product or whatever, but you don't really want to see a lot of that. But then here's how they set cost on the business management and sales side. Like that gap right there, that's your profit. That's it. So if any other one of these buckets, if we have to add a piece of labor, if we have to have a little bit of scrap, if we have all these different things, right? That takes away from that bit of margin in there. If we decrease any one of those bars though, that's where you become a hero at. So let's point back to it, figure out where we can trim up some of those things with both of them talking the same language, like the scrap hitting the floor, right? How can we reuse that or not lose it in the first place, whatever, and gain back that $4.2 million? Most of the problems out there, they're not that challenging. They really aren't.
When you got people, if you go challenging,
Yeah.
sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but
it's always the people, but I believe that 99.8% of people come into work every day wanting to win.
yeah,
I would say
agree
that
with
there's a 0.2% that they're on welfare or whatever and don't want to lose that check or whatever the case is. But most people come in every day wanting to win. They just don't know how. They just don't know
So
how.
let me throw a word out there. Constraints. Because I deal a lot in constraints.
Yeah.
That's one of my core things I work with people on, is finding the constraints in your business. Because a lot of times where they think they're saving money by going lean, they're actually, they have a constraint. Whether it's an offer constraint or they have an authority constraint, they have a constraint in their business.
Right.
And Think and Grow Rich was written a long, long time ago. And one of the things in Think and Grow Rich that Napoleon did after he interviewed all these people, there's this one, I've heard it said so many times, and I even here recently heard somebody said FedEx had this problem. But it's really, the guy came in, he analyzed in the manufacturing, there was a problem. He put an X on the valve, says replace the valve. They replaced the valve. It all worked. Very, very simple.
Yeah.
Charged them $10,000 to do it. They were pissed. $10,000 to get production back up to a magnet, and they're upset. And he says, well, don't you think that's a little over the top? He goes, okay, I'll send you another bill. $1 for putting the X on the valve. $9,999 because I know what valve it is.
All right.
That's when we deal with constraints. It's knowing where those constraints, where the old word used to be bottleneck,
Right.
where the bottleneck problems are. They're easy to spot. Sometimes they're not easy to fix.
Yeah.
Because we're dealing with people's emotions, we're dealing with we're dealing with leaders, but I want it this way.
Yeah.
So fixing I always feel like if I can problem solve through the constraints and provide the necessary balance there to get both sides communicating, you use that saving that 4.2, they probably make 5.2 just by fixing some constraints.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know about you. That's just kind of and this really isn't about me, but when you say this about your business, those are key things that I think are important.
I think there's some constraints out there too that aren't real. I think there's some imaginary constraints, right?
No way.
So run into them all the time where they're like, I can't do that. Why not? Well, because it's not part of my roles and responsibilities. Your roles and responsibilities aren't to help the company save money. You know,
Pick up a piece of trash off the floor.
Right.
That's not my role. It's the janitor's role.
So they're these weird self-imposed, just thoughts that we come up with. But at the end of the day, right? Really, I tell these teams the best ideas generally come from when you take an operator and a mechanic, maintenance technician, whatever you want to call them. You put them in a room, lock the door, feed pizzas under until they come out with a solution. That's going to be your best solution.
Novel idea. Solution.
But we want to solve things at boardroom tables. So we end up spending a ton of money, getting zero results. So when I bring these teams together, I bring together different walks of life, operators, maintenance technicians, supervisors on both sides of the fence. I don't bring together the plant manager and the maintenance manager. They can help lead these groups or whatever, but they're not going to be the ones going out there and fixing the problem. So we also work on empowerment.
Ooh.
As we're down to the grassroots level, because these are the people who see it every day. And I guarantee you, when I was in the meat industry, these people out there, I don't know how they do it, okay? But if you had a lady pushing a piece of meat in a bag, her day is good if she can do this all day, right? But if she starts having to do this, her day goes to hell, right? So they want this stuff fixed too. So bring them in to be part of the solution. Otherwise, they become a victim to it.
And they become a problem.
Yeah.
Real quick.
So if they become a victim to it, they're never going to support it, right? They're never going to want whatever you do.
Mm-hmm.
And we just continuous vicious cycle going on, right? It's absolutely...
It is vicious, though.
Yeah, it's vicious. There's a lot of money wasted in American manufacturing today. I've been in a lot of plants in the last 3 months. And it is amazing, because I always thought that my plants ran the worst. I think it's just a little head game that I got going on. But I go out and see some of these companies, and it's like, man, they make a lot of money, but there's a lot more to be made here. A ton more to be made here. Double, triple.
Another constraint.
Yeah.
Folks, really becoming the better you, or because I work a lot on the becoming the better business side. We bring people like Steve in, and the purpose of this is so they can really reach out to you, and he can help you identify those constraints in your business. He can help you grow in your business. And I want to bring this to an end, because the conversation, me and you, we could go on and on and on and talk about it. But really what I'd like to put a stamp on you, with your permission, is you're a problem solver. When you're a problem solver, no matter what it is, you'll find the constraint.
Absolutely.
As a problem solver. So how can our people out there at Becoming the Better You reach out to you if they're seeing a constraint in their business?
Yeah, so the best way to reach out to me would be direct email first and foremost. That's steve@fireforgeleader.com, or you can go directly to my website at www.fireforgeleader.com.
That's fantastic. Well, I look forward to doing business, because we also not only in the business realm, we deal in the personal realm as well. And I look forward to forging those paths, to use some of your wording in your company, and aligning to help people. Because believe me, there's a lot of personal problems, but there's a lot of business problems
Right.
that we can actually solve problems at and really help people scale whatever level they want to scale. It doesn't matter if it's scaling in their personal life or scaling in their business life. So I really appreciate you coming today. Again, I'm Brian K. Ramey with the Becoming the Better You staff, and this is Steve Baumgartner,
Yeah.
and is Fire
Fireforge leader.
Forge leader.
All right. Appreciate it, Brian.
Thank you. In their business.
Yeah, so the best way to reach out to me would be direct email first and foremost. That's steve@fireforgeleader.com, or you can go directly to my website at www.fireforgeleader.com.
That's fantastic. Well, I look forward to doing business because we also not only in the business realm, we deal in the personal realm as well. And I look forward to forging those paths, to use some of your wording in your company, and aligning to help people. Because believe me, there's a lot of personal problems, but there's a lot of business problems
Right.
that we can actually solve problems at and really help people scale whatever level they want to scale. It doesn't matter if it's scaling in their personal life or scaling in their business life. So I really appreciate you coming today. Again, I'm Brian K. Ramey with the Becoming the Better You staff, and this is Steve Baumgartner,
Yeah.
and is
Fireforge leader.
Forge leader.
All right. Appreciate it, Brian.
Thank you.